You're listening to the Colts Blue Zone Podcast with Mike Chappell and Dave Griffiths.
Inside the Fox 59 CBS 4 podcast studio, welcome to the Colts Blue Zone Podcast. Alongside Mike Chappell and Matt Adams, I'm Dave Griffiths. Glad to have you along as the Colts are probably, maybe as this drops, flying over the Atlantic Ocean, heading to Frankfurt, Germany, ready for a game Sunday morning, early morning. If you are in central Indiana, the broadcast begins, our pregame coverage begins at 8:30 with the Blue Zone on Fox 59. That'll lead you right through pregame coverage all the way up to kickoff. Just stay with us all morning, and it'll be hopefully a happy morning for Colts fans as they take on the New England Patriots. Guys are coming off a win over the Carolina Panthers last week. We'll delve into that a bit, but first we should start this podcast just with a quick mention that former Colts player Matt Ulrich has passed away at 41 years old. He was a captain at Northwestern, played 2 seasons in the NFL, both of them with the Colts, and he got a Super Bowl ring here in Indianapolis. You're not going to put him as a mainstay of the Super Bowl team, but hey, you win a Super Bowl ring and you got a ring. Exactly, and that's what everyone is chasing. So our thoughts, our prayers out to Matt and his family, to the Colts as well. Jim Irsay posted on the artist formerly known as Twitter that he was heartbroken and saying Matt was only with us for 2 seasons, but left his mark on so many. So, Chap, an unfortunate way to start this podcast with the death of a Colt Super Bowl champion. Yeah,
whenever these guys, I mean, it's Matt and I were talking. You flash to the guy. I remember him, but he was a backup lineman, but he was part of the team, and when you're part of the team, like you said, when you get a ring, you get a ring.
Right.
And these guys really get close in the locker room, regardless how long or short. I think he played 5 games each year. No starts, but he played. So, yeah, condolences. And some people would look at when Jim Irsay posts this, says, oh, really? No, he's invested in these players. He is. That's genuine. So condolences to Matt's family.
Yeah. So let's get into that last week game against the Panthers. The Colts come out on top, 27-13, which finally was actually close to my prediction for last week. I felt better about myself, and all of us were relatively close with our thoughts about how this game would go, but perhaps not exactly how it would go, because if you take away Kenny Moore, this is a 13-13 ball game. The Colts offense was none too impressive down in Carolina. But thankful for lightning in a bottle there. The pro out of Valdosta State University, go Blazers, and Lowndes County High School in South Georgia, go Vikings. Kenny Moore has had a pretty good season, Chap, and this game specifically was able to show on the stat sheet some obviously highlights, but it does not. I mean, it kind of. What I'm saying is he's already built himself up a fairly good season playing inside corner, not the lofty stats that you would that always come with quote unquote great play, but you got the stats in this game for sure.
Well, and it's the latest step on his I guess comeback tour, because last year was not a good year. He's the first to admit it. A lot of things didn't go right, and started with him having his hold in, I think it was, because he was here but not participating because he wanted a new contract. And then he just didn't find his niche in Gus Bradley's defense. He just didn't, for whatever reason. And we're getting that 2.0 with Shaq Leonard this year, which we can get into later.
Right.
But no, it was good to see. He's the, and keep in mind, he's the corner that has experience. The rest of them, they're like little puppies out there running around. They're just trying to grab bag people around Kenny, and he's sort of the stabilizing force. So it's good to see. It's good to see good things happen to good guys, and he's one of them. And again, but he's played well all year. I thought he and DeForest Buckner was just a wrecking ball. It's amazing how a player inside can do that when you're not Aaron Donald. But he's not Aaron Donald, but he's not far off.
Right. In terms of the level of guys who are, quote-unquote, not far off in the NFL from Aaron Donald, you'd put DeForest Buckner in that category.
He's top 5 at his position.
Right. So, and I say that just out of respect for Aaron Donald, saying that he's at this level. if you look over the course of an entire season and certainly an entire career, and everyone else is just a step below.
Which is not. It shouldn't be a knock.
Right. It's not a knock.
So you're not Aaron Donald, huh? Okay. Well.
Oh well. Yeah. Exactly. There weren't Lawrence Taylors back in the day either. There was one of them. There wasn't Jerry Rice's, even though Andre Reed was pretty good. Art Monk was pretty good. Herman Moore was pretty good. But
you don't compare people to like Jerry Rice. It's like, who's number 2? Mm-hmm. Let's compare it to that guy, because you can't compare to aliens. They're different.
But Kenny Moore had the stats of an alien this week, Matt. Finally, getting some recognition, well deserved for his performance this year.
Well, it's really interesting, as Chat mentioned. He had an off year last year. You just didn't see a whole lot from Kenny, because we are used to him making some plays out there, whether it's breaking up some passes, getting some interceptions, that type of thing. So it's really nice. Last couple of weeks they've used him a little bit. They've had him go in blitz packages. He's picked up some sacks, and this week, especially that first interception, Panthers trying to maybe not cheat, but steal some points off the clock before halftime. Kenny Moore reads that route, undercuts that, and then he is gone. Yep. It was beautiful, and that really turned the game right there, because after that happened, you kind of felt the Colts settle in. This Carolina team's not really going to be able to do much against us if we play our game, and that's kind of the way things went.
And I credit Kenny Moore for sticking with it through last year and coming back this year and being better. Like, he has played better. He understands Gus Bradley's scheme better. He has found a better role for himself because of the work that he has put in to making sure that he's at his best. And Chap brought up Shaquille Leonard, and Shaq is at the very the earlier stages. Because last year for Shaq, as we said last week, Chap on the podcast, was basically a wash. Doesn't matter. It was not any significant participation in this Gus Bradley defense, which is different from Matt Eberflus's defense, which so perfectly really showcased the natural talents that Shaq has at linebacker. So if Shaq is here next year, you would hope for the same type of jump that Kenny Moore has had this year, I guess is the point that I'm trying to make. A better understanding of what he's supposed to do in the defense and a better understanding of how he can use his talents to make it better. But, of course, that's a pretty long way off right now.
Well, but since we got to Shaq, let's just talk about Shaq.
Might as well.
We talked with him today, and the main overriding difference between Kenny Moore and Shaq is contract. I mean, Kenny got a good contract, but he didn't get Shaq money. And Shaq's going to count roughly $20 million, $21 million against the cap next year. And this is where, if you are so inclined, that you can part ways. And he counts, I think, $8 million against the cap, $12 million. You create cap space. We talked to him today, and last week he was pretty open about wanting to play more, and they want more splash plays. And I asked him today, they want more splash plays, but you're not playing third down, which is like,
splash play down.
That's splash play down. You certainly can get forced fumbles and things on earlier downs, but that's when you sort of do it. And we talked to Gus Bradley early in the week, and he said, hey, we've had really good conversations, and I've kind of explained. Well, that's fine, but Shaq, all he can do is go by what he sees, and he sees very little time, if at all, on third down. Mm-hmm. And I thought, when I saw that Zaire was ruled out last week, that if Shaq was going to see back to Shaq time, that's it. That's when it was. And no, it wasn't. He and EJ Speed split time on third down, and
Segun Olube
took all 71 snaps at Mike. And this is a guy, and I'm not down playing Olube at all. He had played 10 plays on defense this year. So, and Shaq's frustration today was still there, maybe a notch higher, because I think he saw that if not in Carolina, win.
Yeah.
So I shouldn't say barring an injury, because they had an injury and it didn't change with Zaire. So barring an injury to EJ Speed,
to everybody,
really, and that's sort of what he alluded to. Is they're saying this, they're saying that, they're explaining what I can do, what I can't do, and what I need to do, and then he's told, well, you're not going to play third down this week. And he was told that obviously after they found out that Zaire wasn't going to play. So he's not happy with it. He's not being. I don't think he's being disruptive. I think he's doing it the right way. But we were talking. I mentioned it last week, and in a story I posted on Shaq, and James Boyd at The Athletic did as well. He took it a step further. He had to do his 5 things to look for as a season, and the rest, 2 months, whatever. And one of them is that Shaq plays his last down as a Colt. He went there, which is it's kind of like the elephant in the room. Is what might they do? And I wrote that last week about these are the options. I didn't go that this is going to be it.
Happen, right?
Which maybe it is, but I'm telling you, we're talking to Shaq, and that's the one question. That's where we didn't go today with him. It was everything else, and the next follow-up would have been, maybe it's a bit early. I don't know.
Do you want to be here, or do you want to be here next year?
Where do you see your future with this team?
Yeah.
But again. We're all around Shaq and James. You wait your turns on questions, and once you get it, you ask a bunch because that's what you do. But James asked Shaq something about meeting with Gus and being told this, that, and the other. And I'm telling you, I told James, I said, if looks could kill, you would have fallen dead by his locker.
Yes.
Because we've talked about this before, but Shaq is a guy, and he's told us, that he and his people around him, they look for things to motivate him.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they look everywhere. They turn over every rock, which I think I'd just wear my rear end out to do that.
Right.
But there was no question that Shaq it was brought to his attention what James wrote. And I'm telling you, it's that glare that sometimes you get from maybe the wife when you do something stupid, which we all do. But
speak for yourself. No, definitely.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
But it was one of those like, I was almost expecting next question or somebody else. But he addressed it. But that's the one place we've not gone with him yet is with the way that you're being used in this defense, where do you see your future? It's obvious that Zaire Franklin is the linebacker focal point of this defense.
Right.
It just is. Right now it's Zaire, Buck, and Kenny Moore. Where it used to be, Shaq was part of that triangle. So not next week, maybe with it being holiday, but the week after, at some point it'll come up, and we'll see where he goes with it.
Yep. And if you look at Gus Bradley's defensive history, I mean, he had Bobby Wagner in Seattle. That was kind of that middle linebacker position that did so well. So translating that over here, the middle linebacker, Zaire Franklin, is kind of taken over that role. But I'll say, Matt, to Shaq's credit, even though he only participated in what percentage of snaps? Less than 50 last week?
It was 55%.
55%.
I think it was.
So that's what it was, 55%, right around 50%. And Saguna Luby had 100% of snaps. The Colts' leading tackler against the Carolina Panthers was Shaq Leonard. In 39 snaps, I believe he had 10 tackles. That's pretty darn good. That is a good ratio. So, I mean, it might not be splash plays, but Shaq can say, well, if you want consistency, I'm out there tackling everybody all the dang time, not Saguna Luby, who's getting 100% of the snaps and only has 6 or 8 tackles, however many it was. I had literally half the number of snaps and double the amount of tackles nearly as this guy. So I completely understand Shaq's point of view that he should be in the lineup from that perspective.
I feel like the last couple weeks, as this has kind of been a sub-headline story for the Colts, what are you doing with Shaq Leonard? I do feel last week he was around the ball a little bit more than I had seen him in recent weeks. And then, of course, it did pop off the stat sheet when I looked at the box score, especially because it did feel, you're watching the game. I feel like maybe Shaq's had a few more tackles this week than he has. And you look at the box score, there he's got double-digit tackles. Now, we didn't have a sack strip or a forced fumble or an interception or anything like that. But around the ball, if you're in there, maybe some of those things start to loosen up a little bit.
Right, and I think the overarching idea behind what comes next for Shaq Leonard is you don't pay $19 million for a guy who has 10 tackles a game. Like, you don't pay $19 million for that. So you need the sacks.
Got to have.
And Shaq says, like, he doesn't blitz now in this system, so that's something he doesn't do. Like, you need the interceptions. You need the forced fumbles in order to justify a team spending that much money on you.
And there's a good chance they're going to extend Zaire next offseason.
Right.
because he's grossly underpaid. Because remember when he got his extension, he said, "Yeah, that was special teams-ish."
Right, and it was 4 years, $12 million or something like that.
It was 3 for 12.
3 for $12 million.
Right.
There you go.
So, and now he's not playing last week. I believe he still leads the league in tackles. Mm-hmm. And you can you remember tackles. We've talked. Sometimes a guy gets 15 tackles. You think, really? I don't remember any of them. Almost like what you mentioned about with Shaq last week. Zaire's made some. Yeah, you remember him. Mm-hmm. Was it the 4th and 2 or 4th and 1 against Derrick Henry?
Right.
So it's going to be really interesting. They're going to have flexibility with what they do roster-wise, money-wise, as long as your quarterback's on his rookie deal. But you got some decisions to make.
I'll go back to the Panthers game real quick. We seem to have wrapped up a nice tidy bow on Shaq, but I'll add this from my thoughts watching the Panthers game. The Colts got a lot of favors there from Carolina. 10 penalties, 81 yards. It seemed like a couple of them were at crucial times. Like if that was us in that old press conference room talking to Frank Reich after that game, I know that would have been a prime focus. And I haven't followed Carolina news this week or anything, what he's said.
Right now it's all about Bryce Young.
Yeah. But I'm sure that he was, looking at the film, he was not happy about those penalties. So that goes to, once again, the Colts needed a lot of help in this game. They got it from Kenny Moore, and it's hard to call that help because he's on your team. But I mean, the offense needed a lot of help.
Got help
I
from
guess,
the defense.
yes.
Yeah.
They got help from the defense. They got help from Carolina committing penalties at crucial times. I think there was a lot. If it wasn't for some outstanding play for Kenny Moore and some big mistakes from Carolina, we would have thought this game. We would have seen this game, I think, for more of the ugly show that it really was underneath those couple things.
And we've talked about this before, like with Gardner Minshew. I thought early on they determined that we can't do something to lose this game. They saw that Carolina was not going to.
They were going to lose the game,
right? They were going to let them do it. I think they just decided, hey, they're not going to, barring turnovers, they're not going to put up 20 on us. And we saw a really, really passive, non-aggressive offensive approach.
Right.
What was it, 78 yards rushing against one of the worst run defenses.
2.6 yards per carry.
Yeah, and I understand that the Panthers loaded the front and they were daring Minshew to throw the ball, which Steichen was saying, we're not throwing the ball down the field.
Yeah, we're not going to do it.
We're not going to do it.
Yeah.
And I was stunned when I looked, 198 yards total offense. That's like the 5th fewest in Colts history, in Indy history, in a win. And it's only the 3rd time this year that a team has won in the league with less than 200 yards in total offense. So that's not a you can't no.
It's not a winning recipe usually.
Maybe this week. I mean,
Patriots aren't very good either.
They're not very good either. But until, and we've been down this road before, until Minshew and the passing game exerts itself, shows something down the field, this is what they're going to run into, which is 8 guys in the box or whatever. So it's going to be interesting to see how much freedom they give Minshew to try to win a game. I don't know how you phrase it, but that game they weren't going to mess around and have a dumb throw or whatever. And what the only turnover they had was McKenzie's muff punt. Their 4 wins. They've got one turnover,
and that's it. The muff
and that's
punt.
it.
There
that's
you
it.
go.
So that's an ideal way of doing it, but boy, you can't. History shows you can't win very often with 198 yards total offense.
But like you said, possibly the ability to do that this week, just because the Patriots have not been anything to write home about this year. 2-7 on the year. They're last place in the AFC East. The Colts are 4-5. They're in the AFC South. Now, I'll say this about the Patriots: their schedule has been bonkers tough. It's been very difficult. Entering this year, the Patriots had the presumed most difficult schedule in the NFL, in fact.
AFC East.
Yes, because they play in the AFC East. They have to play the Bills, they have to play the Dolphins and the Jets, who are probably playing better than people thought they'd play with Zach Wilson at quarterback.
Until the last few games.
But all that to say, the Patriots already have played the Dolphins twice. They've played the Bills twice. They've played the Eagles. They've played the Cowboys, who are both really good teams. They've played a lot of tough games there. That's 6 games against 4 teams that all have Super Bowl aspirations, or at least deep playoff run aspirations themselves. So, but also the Patriots have lost to the Raiders and they've lost to the Commanders. So those are both teams that are kind of similar in terms of the Colts.
Lost to the Saints 34-zip.
Yeah. So, I mean, the Colts lost to the Saints too, but at least it was a closer game that time. So yeah, I mean, they've played tough teams, but they also haven't looked great against average teams or mediocre teams. So
I threw a note in yesterday about it Shane Steichen was asked this yesterday about, can you believe that there's questions to Bill Belichick that do you believe you're coaching for your job?
Yeah.
And a writer, a well-known national writer for the Boston Globe, he wrote that. And normally when I read things, I think, that guy's, who the heck is that guy? Well, this guy I've heard of is Ben Valin, I think it is.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like, it's not it's not 100% that he won't get fired. This was before the Washington game. If they lose to the Washington and then lose to the Colts, Robert Kraft is getting tired of this.
Mm-hmm.
So there would be, can you imagine if that far-fetched happens and the Colts are the one that pound the nail in the coffin?
I'll give a little solace to this fan base for the years gone by.
I just can't see that happening. I just can't. But I think that it's pretty well understood, I think, that this is his last year there, because they've got to transition to something. They just can't keep holding on, but that's their problem. We've been through that stuff, and it's no fun. Mid-season changes are really no fun. I can't imagine what it would be like in Foxborough if Kraft's, pessimism bubbles to the surface and he changes coaches. I just can't see it.
Well, the great coincidence of this scenario would be, if this is the game to spark change there, last year was the game to spark change right here in Indianapolis as Shaq makes a sour face. 26-3 was the final score. I was there. One of the many games that I have gone to.
See, this is
Dave.
You're welcome.
This is a you.
Listen, seriously, it is me. I am the problem. It's me. Because our very own Chris Woodlick back there in the office just came back from the road this week where they get the win in Carolina. Chris Woodlick has been to 8 straight Colts road games where they have won the game. 8 in a row wins for Chris Woodlick on the road. And then there's me with all the disaster that I have wrought forth with the Vikings game last year, the Patriots game last year, the streak in Jacksonville.
Any Jacksonville game on the road.
Exactly. All of it. So
it's these guys have got all these analytics and dietitians, and they try to find reasons. Do we need to change hotels? It's Occam's razor.
Yeah.
It's the simplest thing. It's you.
It's me.
This is a you issue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's hard to argue against that point. It really is. So it's all for naught. But fortunately for the Colts, I'm done with my road trips this year. So no more from me. We've got everybody else in the department going on road trips from here on out.
The road team marked safe from Dave Griffith.
So the only road game they've lost is you.
Yes, the Jacksonville game.
Okay.
That's correct.
I just wanted to
just getting that straight. I was there for the Baltimore win, to be fair. I pull out one every once in a while just to keep people off my back.
That's the Matt Gay game.
Yeah, it is.
Nobody takes credit for that except for Matt Gay.
It's right. No doubt about that. But yeah, that game last year, the 26-3, there was part of you that could see that coming with Sam Ehlinger playing a Bill Belichick defense, who is Ehlinger wasn't a rookie last year, but he essentially was in terms of experience and what Bill Belichick's record is against rookie quarterbacks and how poorly that Colts offensive line was playing, and Matt Judon on the other side just tearing it up.
2 or 3 of the first 4 or 5 plays.
Just little stunts.
Right.
Come around the inside, round the inside, round the inside.
If you don't stop it, we're not gonna stop.
Exactly. No, why would we? And that was one of the worst offensive football games that I have seen in my career, and I've seen some.
So the way to really, let's say that it's Bizarro weekend and they fire Belichick if the Colts win, then it's only appropriate then, like in the second half, to put Sam back out there. After the way Belichick ragdolled him last year.
You might as well. But we can also look back to the 2021 game quarterbacked by Carson Wentz that led to a win right here in Indianapolis. Of course, the great exclamation point on that was Jonathan Taylor's 67-yard touchdown run. Taylor had himself a heck of a fine game there, but that was the one that he really broke.
Everybody remembers the highlight.
Third and 1, third and 2, third and 1, whatever it was.
I don't remember what the down was, but yeah, that was a great one and a great win that year for that team. Late or middle to late in the year, whenever it was. Was that a night game? That was like a Thursday night game or something.
It might have been.
Yeah,
they blur together.
Yeah, exactly. But all time, the Patriots are 53-30 against their former AFC East rival, and they've won 9 of the last 10, as Matt points out. The only one win, quarterbacked by Carson Wentz. There,
he got signed this week.
He did. He's in L.A. How about that? The Rams.
Zombie apocalypse is upon us because Carson Wentz and Jacob Eason returned to the NFL on the same day.
That is something right there. Holy heck!
I missed where did Eason go?
The Giants.
Well, good for
which is where quarterbacks go to die.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, them starting Tommy DeVito to me as a guy who
I thought it was Danny DeVito.
I know, right? As a guy who went to Syracuse and saw the Tommy DeVito era at Syracuse, I cannot imagine him being in the NFL. Cannot imagine it. So, well, congrats to Tommy and his family for making it in the league, because that is an accomplishment. And I'm not going to rain on that parade, but I will rain on his parade at Syracuse, where he did absolutely nothing.
But Eason and Wentz, they're going to play. Mm-hmm. Because of the situations they're in. Matthew Stafford, he's got the bad thumb.
Yep. And
I believe they waived the other 2 quarterbacks on the roster, Rippon and someone else.
A new era begins. I wish so bad that Rams-Colts game was later in the year. Oh, my gosh. Because we were deprived of it last year.
We were.
Of the Carson Wentz reunion game with the Colts.
He got hurt, didn't he?
He got hurt the week before.
The week before, correct.
Yeah, and just couldn't make it back in time. And the Colts lost that game because what's-his-name made a really great play. Terry McLaurin made a heck of a catch.
Oh, yeah. I'd like to have what's-his-name
took
here.
It over from Stephon Gilmore.
I'd like to have what's-his-name here.
What's-his-name would be great to be here. That's no doubt about that. What's-his-name could have been here. He could have drafted him instead of Paris Campbell. No disrespect to Paris, but man, that was a swing and a miss, unfortunately, that year to let Terry McLaurin, the local Indy guy, go and him blossom into a clear number one wide receiver, and Matt sighing over there in disbelief on the other side of the table here. And as every Cathedral Fighting Irish fan would, Jack Doyle's career is coming to an end. It's only logical to bring in another Cathedral star. But no, Terry McLaurin, drafted by the Washington Commanders that year, and is really, like I said, blossomed into a heck of a player over there.
He's probably not top 10.
But he's top 15.
He's darn close.
I'd take him.
He's a real good.
But dadgummit, I'd take him.
I would need to really look at the top 10 that I would have before excluding him, but he's such a good player.
The Colts go international this week. The second German game of this NFL season as the Chiefs beat the Dolphins across the pond last week there in Frankfurt. The home field of Eintracht Frankfurt in the Bundesliga, the German highest level of soccer there, which of course is their football. But it's the third game overall in Germany, as the Seahawks and Bucks played last November in Munich, or München, as the locals say over there. I took 4 years of German in high school and then a semester in college. And that semester in college was the easiest thing ever, because I tested into basically whatever I could. I was like, I'll just take 201 and make it an easy, because I needed it for like an elective or something that I needed to fill out.
You're just showing off.
Yeah, I slept through that class because it was like an 8 a.m. foreign language classes are the worst, man. And I had it in high school too. Like my senior year, I had AP German very first out of the chute, and that was not a good memory. Well, it was a fine memory because I like the teacher and I like my classmates, but it was just tough. Anyway, this is not a German podcast. This is a story about the Colts going over to Germany. And by the way, if you are here in central Indiana, watch us on Fox 59, CBS 4 over the next couple days. Our Chris Hagen is over there in Germany right now, getting introduced to the local fare and the local flavor and the local folks over there in the Rhineland. And so definitely we'll watch what Chris has to say. And he'll be filing reports over there for our Blue Zone pregame show as well that airs this weekend. Like I said, 8:30 on Sunday morning, leading you right into more pregame coverage and then kickoff on Fox 59 as well. But it's the Colts' second regular season overseas game, chap. The first one was against the Jaguars in London that they lost. Yeah, 30-27, and awful.
And it wasn't that close.
No, it was not. It was not close, and they made it close at the end by some bizarre miracle.
It was 23-6 at the end of the third quarter, I believe it was.
Right, and it was not a pretty game.
Were you there?
I was not at that
Okay,
one. No,
well,
Hagen was at
can't
that
blame
one,
you.
so
Okay.
you can blame Hagen for that
Hagen,
one.
the international traveler.
Indeed,
apparently.
he is. Yes, but anyway. That was actually technically part of the Colts Jacksonville road streak because that's technically a
Yeah, it
Jaguars
was
home
home
game
game.
over there in London, probably at Wembley Stadium, as I assume is where
Yeah,
it was.
it was.
Yeah, yep. But anyway, we'll see if they can do any better in Germany this week. The Patriots in the NFL are 31st in points per game. The tail of the tape here, 15 points per game is not impressive. No, it is not.
Who's worse, Denver, Arizona?
Oh gosh, I forget.
Yeah, look
all
that
right.
up. Take a look. Take a see.
I'll look.
It is hard to only score 15 points.
It is.
Kenny scored 14.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, technically he scored 12, but
Well, and I thought he had more touchdowns than like 4 teams last week.
that's pretty good. That is pretty good. The Colts are 7th in the NFL, averaging nearly 26 points per game, and
Only team in the league with 20 points in every game.
Exactly, 20 points plus in every game.
Your New York Football Giants,
Oh
11.2.
yeah,
Duh.
11.2, even somehow worse.
We're getting down close to Jack Doyle average yards per catch territory with the New York Giants football output on a weekly basis. Passing yards, the Patriots are 21st in the league, 202 yards per game. Colts are 16th at 220 yards per game. Once again, like we've already quote unquote sung the praises of the Colts downfield air attack under Gardner Minshew, and still they're 16th in the NFL. In passing right now, and the Patriots are worse at 200 yards per game. Rushing yards, Patriots are 28th. 86.9 yards per game, 3.7 yards per rush. The Colts are 10th in rushing yards, 123 per game, 4.3 yards per rush. So
and they plummeted a couple after last week because that hurt their average, and then it really hurt their yards per carry.
Yep, and not a surprise to see them fall down a little bit there. Points allowed on defense, the Patriots are giving up 25 points per game, which is unusual to see from a Bill Belichick coach team. They're 26th in the NFL. Colts are 28th in points given up at 26.9 per game. So you're scoring a fair amount, but you're also giving up a fair amount. Have made for some interesting fourth quarters the last couple of weeks. Maybe not the last week in Carolina, but the previous 3 weeks at least, when it was a shootout in the 30s every week after week. The total defensive yards, Patriots are 16th in the league, so they're giving up fewer yards than points they're giving up, which is always a weird thing to say. Colts are 26th in defensive yards given up, averaging 360 per game. Passing defense, Patriots 21st, so right near that lower third. Colts 23rd. So
Quartile.
Yes, exactly.
Can you be? Is it third quartile? You can be a third
in
quartile.
the third quartile? Technically, I think that's right. They're in the third quartile.
But I thought a quartile is like 25% Is it?
Yeah,
what's a
so there's
so
three
you can't
quartiles.
You
So
can't mix third and quartile.
They would be the top 8 would be the top quartile.
Okay.
The next 8 would be the second quartile. The next 8 after that, so like what would be 24 up to like 16, right around that area would be the third quartile. At least that's how I would view it.
So you think you can use third and quartile?
I think so. You can
together?
use the third quartile. Yeah, and then the bottom quartile right there from
we're varying
32
okay.
to 25 or whatever it is down there. Yeah.
Because I think what is today? Today the 8th.
Yes.
Yesterday was the anniversary of the quartile.
Or today's the 9th, I'm sorry.
Oh, that was 2 days ago of the Just Saturday
Oh my goodness.
press
A
conference.
date that shall live in infamy. Once again, my favorite part of that press conference was still, we'll bring back our friend James Boyd of The Athletic asking Jim Irsay, why do you think Jeff Saturday is the right fit? And Jim Irsay responding, well, you just said it. He's the right fit. That was by far my favorite moment of the press
because he always
conference.
hires winning coaches.
Well, except for that time. So
And we were going on and on the top. Here we go down a rabbit hole again.
the top 5 moments from that press conference.
And there were more, but it was like there was something about Frank or whatever. And he says, "I don't want you guys to diminish Frank Reich and what he's done. You fired him.
You did it. You did it.
You just fired the man." So, but it was in my lasting memory, seared in my brain, is Chris Ballard sitting there on the left, and he wanted to be about 30 other places. Mm-hmm. And I remember the press conference started like 20 minutes late because they had to go find him. I don't think he wanted to be there.
Right.
But, we've moved on. That's why it's I sort of would wish it upon the Patriots media to have to go through that because it's not pleasant. They would do it better.
Yeah.
They would do it more. They would do it more by the books. Mm-hmm. But So there, I wanted to mention the birthday or the anniversary.
Of course,
I mean, the whole thing feels like a fever dream, like that it actually
happened. Yes, it did. It absolutely happened.
Yes,
I remember it happened. I was there. Chap was there. Yeah,
we were there.
Well, I watched it.
And he starts by saying, "We're just thrilled to be here." There are so many more introductions other than thrilled to be here to announce we fired this guy and we're hiring this guy.
Yeah. Chris Ballard, a noted Wisconsin fan from his history. What's their big rivalry? Would it be Minnesota or
Probably.
Michigan State? Like they have there's all these trophies in the Big Ten, but Chris Ballard would rather dress up in the Golden Gopher outfit and
He
parade
could
the
dress up
sidelines.
as a Hoosier now after the Hoosiers punked him.
Yeah, let's go IU and parade the sidelines for a game rather than be at that press conference for sure. All right, done with that rabbit trail. We are back on track.
We'll find another one to go down.
Exactly. The rushing defense, Patriots are 11th in the league, so they have a pretty good rush defense, allowing only 100 yards per game, 3.5 yards per carry.
They will not let the Colts run the ball.
No, you are right. Like this could be an ugly game if neither team can find anything going in the passing game. Because that's what Belichick has typically done is take away.
You like to do this, find something else to do.
Exactly, and he's done that against the Colts often. Like there are times when, like you mentioned, the game against the Saints beat him 34-0 when it doesn't work. It just always seems to work against the Colts. He finds a way to stop what they're doing well, to not let Marvin catch the ball, whatever
Or
it
to
was.
let Edge run for 150.
Exactly.
Whatever you think, it's the old term about making you play left-handed. Well, Peyton had guys, they could play left-handed and beat you.
Right.
But I want to see how this is going to go. We'll get to the injuries later on, but if they don't have Josh Downs this week, which I bet they don't.
Yeah,
I just
it doesn't
think
feel like it.
This is where you let maybe Josh
Get 2 weeks.
and Zaire, maybe. But it's going to be harder to go elsewhere than JT unless you use JT in the pass game,
Right.
which they've been doing. But, Kyle and Granson, the pass game last week was so strange. It was like Michael Pittman, JT, and then nobody.
Right.
So get Granson more involved, get the tight ends more involved. So we'll see where it goes. Alec Pierce.
Will Alec Pierce get a target?
Where's Alec Pierce?
Right.
Ogletree. He had the 19-yard catch last week, but then he left the game with a foot injury, so we don't even know if he'll be back this week.
Colts 24th in the NFL in rushing defense, 225 yards allowed.
Hasn't that been disappointing this year?
It has been. It really has. They've had a couple really bad games there.
And yes, Grover. I saw him in the locker room the other day, so he's
back?
back in the building.
Good.
I think he had to be gone for three games.
Gone for 3 games, and then he's out for 3 more.
Which
right?
is stupid. Note in the NFL.
You've said this so many times.
If
It's so
you
right.
suspend a player, at least let him around the discipline and the routine of the team, especially if it's a street drug or something. I mean, to banish these guys when they need this. But no, I think the run defense has been vulnerable even with him, which is strange because that had always been needs to be a strength. Boy, recently that's not been the case.
The Colts are even with 14 takeaways, 14 turnovers on the season. The Patriots are -5, also 14 turnovers, but only 9 takeaways on the defensive side of the ball. Let's run down the Patriots, some of their playmakers on offense, and I use the term playmakers very loosely. Matt Jones, 1,861 yards passing, 10 touchdowns, 19 interceptions on the year. He's been sacked 16 times.
I'm sorry, 9 interceptions.
Dadgummit, did I say 19?
You did.
Well, that would be something.
That would be very impressive.
And I already said they only have 14 turnovers, so that was definitely not correct.
You were just doing that to see if anybody was listening.
Exactly.
Paying attention.
10 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, 9 times. Bailey Zappi, the backup, has appeared in 2 games. The former Western Kentucky standout. Is that where he went to school? I believe
so.
it was. Yeah. Go Big Red there. Ramondre Stevenson is probably their biggest, we'll use air quotes again, offensive threat with 106 carries, 394 yards, only averaging 3.7 yards per carry. Has 29 catches as well for 215 yards. And I say that because if you look past that, Ezekiel Elliott, 73 carries, 277 yards, only 3.8 yards per carry, 16 catches, 74 yards. He's no better, for sure, and in that platoon of a backfield. And passing, you're looking for Kendrick Bourne is their leading receiver statistically with 37 catches, 406 yards, 4 touchdowns. Hunter Henry, not bad, 27 catches, 277 yards, 3 touchdowns for a tight end. That's That's
kind of okay
it's
as
there.
the rest of this Patriots offense is.
And you might also throw to Demario Douglas, Juju Smith-Schuster, who's has a knee injury that's still not. It's taken away from who Juju Smith-Schuster was, so you see that big name there. But Devontae Parker, Pharaoh Brown, former Colt tight end Pharaoh Brown there playing with the Patriots. And they have 19 explosive plays.
It should say 2 rushing and 17 passing.
Okay, yeah. I was wondering what it was going to be. Yeah, the math was a little funky.
A little mistype there on my part.
Yes, that's okay. And the Colts have 36 explosive plays, and they had 0 last week. A big old 0. And
2 biggest plays were Kenny Moore.
Yeah, exactly. He had 2 catches for 115 yards. He was the leading receiver in that game.
Throw to him more often.
Yeah, they should bring him in. Maybe he can play slot receiver. He knows what's successful for a slot corner. I would love to see Kenny Moore as a slot receiver. Josh Downs is out. Give him the opportunity. Throw him
I was looking at the Patriots receiving. They average 9.5 a catch.
Yeah,
which just doesn't. It just does. It's just.
It's good. We lived through that last year. Like Colts fans lived through that last year. Yeah.
And what's Jones? 6.1 an attempt.
Man.
Frank and I think even Steichen is like 7.4, 7.5.
Right.
It's because it's so hard to drive the ball. It just is.
Mm-hmm. Patriots on defense. The leading tacklers, Juwan Bentley at linebacker has 68. Safety Kyle Duggar has 63. And safety Jabril Peppers has 54. So a lot of people attacking the middle of the field against this Patriots defense. Matt Judon, 4 sacks, and I think he had 4 all of last year, probably against the Colts. He had double digits, last year. But like I said, he had 4 against the Colts last year is what I was trying to say. Juwan Bentley and Christian Barmore at defensive end each have 3 themselves. So let's get to that injury report on Wednesday, which was just a walkthrough for the Colts. No full practice with a unique week here in Indianapolis as they take off Thursday afternoon. As we tape this podcast, like I said, when this drops, they'll probably be in the air already, if not pretty darn close to being so. But Juju Brents, Josh Downs, Zaire Franklin, and Drew Ogletree did not practice in Wednesday's walkthrough. You look at Brent's, I'd say there's a 0% chance he plays. Downs and Zaire, or maybe a 25% chance for them. And Ogletree, I just don't know enough yet, whether it's 25, 50%. We've gotten into some other players more so than we have for Drew. So we'll see what Shane Steichen says overseas when our Chris Hagan is there chatting with him after practice over there in Germany. Limited practice, Tony Brown with his concussion, so trying to work his way back through the concussion protocol that he suffered. I believe it was on the opening kickoff against the Panthers last week. And then full practice, technically full, even though it was just a walkthrough. Braden Smith went through that full practice walkthrough with his hip and wrist injuries that have been keeping him out for the past couple of weeks. I believe he's missed 4 games, so he could have been on injured reserve, but the injury obviously delayed longer than he and the Colts thought it would, and so trying to get back for this game. But once again, as Chap, as you pointed out earlier, it's this game and then a bye week. So what's the value of playing him? Well, you want your best players out there, but at the same time, if it's iffy, like get him back healthy for the home stretch of the season and just let Blake Freeland be out there and battle his butt off as he's been trying to do the past 4 weeks.
Yeah, an update from practice today. Braden Smith is practicing.
There you go. All right, good sign.
Zaire Franklin is practicing.
That's a good sign, too.
And then Brents is not. Brents is the one I'm wondering why they didn't put on
him
IR.
Too. Why is he not on IR?
I don't know. And Josh Downs is not practicing.
Okay.
So, again, I went with Downs. The fact that he tried to go and he aggravated, you don't want to get into that cycle.
Right.
No.
As much as he is vital to your offense, you've got to look longer term with him. So we'll see.
Yeah, he had a couple really good games leading into that unfortunate re-aggravation of the knee that was bugging him there in training camp. So, but he's been one of the positives for sure, Matt, this year. That it's not just that he's the 5-6 yard slot receiver that can get you a couple on 3rd and 4. He's shown that he can stretch the field too. Yeah,
I liked him going into the season, and it's actually come to fruition this year for him. So it's been nice.
It's nice to be right every once in a while for the times that we're not right, and we were right on Josh Downs. We like that kid a lot.
It's been numerous times, more times that we've been wrong than we've been right. But every once in a while,
exactly. Yeah, for sure. Let's see the Patriots injury report from Wednesday. Cornerback J.C. Jackson did not practice and will not play. He's expected to miss the entire Germany trip. Offensive tackle Trent Brown is what does that mean, Matt? To say
I have no idea. This is what it said. He was in no practice yesterday. It said not injury related, personal matter, and then / ankle. What does that even mean?
Doesn't that mean that it is injury related?
It would be injury related. Yes,
Sounds
I've seen that on a couple injury reports this year from the other teams. I'm just like, what does that even mean?
What's going on here? Christian Barmore limited, as was linebacker Juwan Bentley, wide receiver Devontae Parker, and wide receiver Demario Douglas. So a relatively healthy, it looks like, Patriots team, assuming Trent Brown is actually not injury related. Only one player did not practice there on Wednesday for injury reasons. So,
well, and one thing to keep in mind is when you have a guy, maybe Zaire is a good example, that you think he's got a chance to play, but you're adding a 9-hour flight on it. I mean, you get him up walking around the cabin most of the time. So it's
just go do the Russell Wilson and do
the knee lifts.
Exactly, in the middle of the stay active. Hey, did you guys, I retweeted this. Did you guys see the Houston Texans injury report this week?
It was like 20 guys.
23 guys listed on
they
their...
had a huge injury report when we played them a couple weeks ago.
Their Wednesday injury report had 23 guys. Of the 53-man roster, 23 guys were on that Wednesday injury report for the Texans. Just crazy. And by the way, like we've touched on this a little bit, but I think all three teams who drafted a quarterback in this year's draft in the AFC South feel okay to pretty darn good about their guy. The Texans,
the Titans have just transitioned.
Exactly, they're there with Will Levis. The obviously C.J. Stroud and the Texans, match made in heaven so far. That
might
dude,
be offensive rookie of the year.
Yeah, he might be. And I will say, talking about being right and wrong, I was wrong about C.J. Stroud. I did not see him making this type of transition to the NFL. I thought he was going to fall victim to the old Ohio State quarterback's curse, that he just had everything laid out for him there at Ohio State, best wide receivers, great offensive line, and that he would seriously struggle, especially in Houston. Not true at all. I was wrong. C.J. Stroud is a freaking good player. He is accurate. He makes good decisions, and they, in spite of having not any huge wide receiver
made
threats
the most out of him.
For him, he has absolutely made the most out of everything that is around him there in Houston. So props to CJ, credit to Houston for putting him in a position to succeed that we did not see, that very few people saw. CJ Stroud in Houston, love it. We've talked about, obviously, Anthony Richardson here in spite of the injury concerns that will obviously fester into next year. You have some optimism based on what you have seen in the limited role that he has had. And then Will Levis comes out, gets the win 2 weeks ago, throwing for 4 touchdowns in his NFL debut. And I thought it wasn't his fault. That he wasn't the reason they lost to Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh, and that's a tough place to play.
Good defense
in Pittsburgh against Mike Tomlin. Like he played okay. He did not lose them that game. So still to be determined. But like you said, Chap, that's a transition that's been made too. And all three of these teams are certainly feeling better than the other team that drafted a quarterback in the first round, who the Colts just beat last week.
And then Trevor Lawrence. I mean, what is he? 24.
Yeah,
I mean,
so.
it's crazy how this division is set up for the long haul. And Bryce Young, I worry about Frank. I really do.
I do too.
But that's what we've beaten to death is if you get the quarterback, you can build around him. It's hard. It's just hard to build when you don't have that guy. So I think one thing we didn't mention is that Shane Steichen mentioned that Richardson was due back in with the team this week. I don't believe he was at practice because there was might he make the trip, and he didn't. He said, we'll see. But again, we've seen in the 173 snaps, I've seen enough of Richardson to know that he's a player.
Yeah.
Obviously the only issue is, can you stay on the field?
Got to be healthy to be a long-term player.
Right. Correct.
Yeah.
So, but no, I'm with you. I didn't know how these guys viewed C.J. Stroud, but I thought most people thought he was, the old systems player. Mm-hmm. Don't muck it up when you got great players around you. But he's played well. And Will Levis, we'll see.
We'll see.
I'm more confident in Richardson and C.J. Stroud than I am Levis.
That's fair.
But
he threw a pretty deep ball in that first game that he played, man. Pretty
which
deep
is
ball.
wasn't necessarily his bread and butter in college.
Right.
So able to do that in the pro game is big for that team.
But what's difficult now in the last, 2 months of the season? I mean, Ryan Tannehill is the backup. And he will only play, I assume, if there's injury.
Right.
That's got to be a tough dynamic for a veteran guy who has been almost the face. He and Derrick Henry have been the guys, and they are very much transitioning to wherever they go moving forward.
Big weekend for NFL fans as you can get a free Chicken Shack chicken sandwich from Shake Shack if any NFL player does the chicken dance to celebrate a touchdown this weekend, which can be redeemed between November 12th and November 19th at a Shake Shack near you. Matt's very excited about this, to put it in the rundown.
Actually, I did it because one of my coworkers dared me to do it because
Nice.
we were talking about that. He's like, "Is that going to make the podcast this week?" I was like, "Absolutely not." He's like, "You should do it." I'm like, "Well, okay, you know what? Why not? We can talk about it for 15 seconds."
Everybody gets to watch and see if anybody gives a chicken dance this weekend. Who is the Colt that is most likely to give a chicken dance? Who is the Colt that is least likely to give a chicken dance in the end zone? I think Jonathan Taylor is least likely to give a chicken dance in the end zone. Pittman, I don't know. Let's see.
He got burned by Fleisch and the Peace sign.
Yeah, exactly. He's probably
$10,000.
a little gun shy here as we enter.
So if Granson gets in the end zone,
I
he'd be
think
my
Granson
pick.
could do
Granson
it.
will, yeah, because Josh Downs might have.
Yeah.
I don't think he plays, but Granson would have.
I think you're right. I think Granson's the most likely. And
He's kind of got a goofy personality.
Yeah, exactly.
I can see that.
He'll-
Maybe they can throw a touchdown pass to Bernhard Raimann to celebrate.
Now that would be
if
perfect.
they do that, oh my goodness, that'd be incredible. What a
little
great
tackle eligible play.
Exactly. Get him in there. Get him in the end zone. He has a good contingent of family, close family and friends who's coming to the game. His hometown is Steinbrunn, Austria, 500 miles, and I'm sure they would walk 500 miles and 500 more just to see their boy play in the NFL.
He said he bought 18 tickets for him, and they're going to get together. His mom put together dinner reservations for Saturday. They got like an hour and a half to themselves. And the last time his family in mass saw him play, he was a wide receiver for Vienna in the Australian National Championship game. And he caught a touchdown. He said, by the way, I caught a touchdown pass that day.
Nice.
And now he's grown into a 315-pound offensive tackle.
Yes, impressive. Colts Patriots, 9:30 is the kickoff time. If you're watching in Central Indiana, it'll be broadcast on Fox 59. Blue Zone pregame coverage begins at 8:30 a.m. So get started early. Let's go. Load up. Get the pregame coverage going.
I've got to set my alarm.
Yeah, I think so.
That's a little early for me,
Yeah,
but
it is,
I'll
no
get
doubt.
going.
But the Colts are favored by 1.5 points over the Patriots. The over-under at 43.5, so we're expecting a 22-21 ball game, right around that range. Chap, how about you go first? Matt, you go second with your prediction. I'll go third to wrap us up here.
I guess I go the under. I've got 22-17. I normally try to figure out how do you get to 22. I'm not worrying about that. I just think it's going to be low scoring. I think they're going to just beat to death. Don't turn the ball over, because I don't think that they believe that the Patriots are going to score a bunch. I think it's going to be occasionally ugly, but it's so strange that whatever you think you're going to see from Belichick, you're going to see something else. Mm-hmm. But I got 22-17. Good, guys.
All right. Matt.
Very, very similar score. I've got. I guess I have someone hitting an extra point. I have 23-17 with the Colts winning, but again, watch it be 45-42.
There'll be a safety, and there'll be something ugly,
Stupid, weird.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, we'll make it. I'll say we'll give us all three Colts for the win. I'll go 17-16, a thrilling finish in Frankfurt on the pitch. Chap's going to hear all these soccer terms and just shake his head and laugh at me.
It'll go in one ear and out
completely.
out the other one.
Bundesliga.
The Bundesliga.
That's all I know.
In Eintracht Frankfurt on their home pitch, as I said.
You're making that stuff up.
No, I swear. That's completely legitimate. We appreciate you all listening to us on the Colts Blue Zone podcast. Follow us online on Twitter at Colts Blue Zone for news and notes throughout the week. Mike Chappell's work can be found online, CBS4Indy.com, Fox59.com. On Twitter, he is at MChappell51. Matt Adams is at Statomatty. I'm Dave Griffiths at DaveG_sports. Appreciate you listening, and we'll see you next week on the Colts Blue Zone podcast.